What's up, everybody? It is Matt Modi with OddsJam, and for this video, I'm talking about the series between the Celtics and the Nets. With the Nets winning the play-in game last night, they jump up to the 7th seed, and they play the Boston Celtics, who are the 2 seed. Just going to be a really good series. It's kind of funny. These two teams played last year in the exact opposite scenario. The Celtics were the 7th seed, the Nets were the 2 seed. The Nets blew them out, Celtics out in that series, won the series 4-1. And it's remarkable how much has changed since then. The Celtics have a new head coach. Brad Stevens went up into the front office. Ime Udoka stepped in, became the head coach. After a rocky start, the Celtics have been incredible. If you just highlight from January 1st on, isolate the year 2022, the Celtics have the best net rating in the entire NBA, even above the Phoenix Suns. On the season as a whole, they've jumped up to second in net rating. They have the best defense in the NBA. Just a remarkable turnaround for what looked like a lost Celtics season, especially based on how last year ended. Obviously, tons of things are different for the Nets from that series a year ago as well. Most notably, James Harden is no longer on the Nets. He was traded. He sulked his way off the team, was traded for Ben Simmons, who's yet to play a minute with the Nets and probably won't, at least in this series. As far as injury news goes, obviously I mentioned Ben Simmons with the back injury, but he hasn't played yet for the Nets, so it's not like they're losing necessarily a player there. For the Celtics, they are losing Robert Williams, which is huge for them. He's really integral in what they can do on defense and how they're able to have such a versatile defensive lineup with him in there. So losing him definitely hurts. Obviously, it hasn't hurt the betting odds because the Celtics are still favored in pretty much any book you look at. They're minus 130 on Caesars, minus 140 on MGM, 130 on DraftKings, and 142 on FanDuel. So if you did want to bet the Celtics, the best book to do that would be either DraftKings or Caesars at minus 130. Or if you want to bet the Nets, it would make sense to do that on FanDuel at plus 120. Looking at the Nets specifically, obviously, not surprisingly, they're no normal 7 seed, right? They have two of the best, 7, 10, whoever you want to categorize Kyrie Irving players in the NBA. Even though they're the 7 seed, if you just isolate games that Kevin Durant has played, I have the stat up here on the screen. So he's played in 55 games. The Nets are 36-19 in that span. So obviously, when Kevin Durant plays, the Nets are good. If you isolate the minutes that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving have played together, granted, it's not that many games, but they have the second plus minus of any possible two-man lineup in the entire NBA. So with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving on the floor, they outscore teams by an average of 9 points in the 30 minutes they play together. That's, like I said, second in the entire NBA. So just those two. It doesn't matter who else the Nets have on the court, and they're the second best lineup in the NBA. Obviously, one of the struggles with this Nets team is depth. With the James Harden trade, in came Andre Drummond and Seth Curry. Drummond is a fine center, but he really isn't someone that should be playing heavy backup minutes, especially against a Celtics team that can that can put a lot of shooting on the floor and make Drummond guard the perimeter, which is really what he's unable to do. Also came over in that trade is Seth Curry, but he's a great shooter, but he's been troubled by an ankle injury. He said that he won't be 100% for the series, but that he's not going to miss any games, assuming it doesn't get any worse. So really all they need is Seth Curry to stand in the corner and shoot, but him not being able to run around screens as well as he normally does will definitely hurt them. And then, of course, the other big injury on the Nets side is Joe Harris is out for the entire year. He had a really bad ankle injury. He hasn't been in the lineup for a while, but it still hurts losing his shooting, but at least they can prepare for that, unlike the Celtics, who just lost Robert Williams pretty recently. So looking at this series, as far as the games go, every single book pretty much projects this to be a 7-game series. So 7 games has the best odds on FanDuel, the best odds on DraftKings, the best odds on MGM, and Caesars doesn't have those props up yet. And I don't blame them. I think it's going to be a really good series. I struggled back and forth with what I wanted to do with my official pick, but really what I settled on was I'm just going to take the high-end talent of the Nets. I do think the Nets win this series. I think the Celtics, the MO on them is the crunch time minutes for them have been rough. Jason Tatum is obviously their best scorer, and he's an incredible scorer, but he's not quite the facilitator that Kevin Durant and especially Kyrie Irving are. So if you can get the ball out of Jason Tatum's hands and you make someone else on the Celtics beat you in crunch time, that's where they have struggled. That's where the Celtics really struggled at the beginning of the year, and in the random, not a lot of times they've lost in 2022, they've had some bad crunch time minutes, most notably recently against the Miami Heat. And this Nets team, despite not really trying and having a bad defense in the regular season, they've consistently stepped up their defense in games that mattered. Their defense was pretty good in the playoffs last year. It was decent against the Cavs in the play-in game, and it's been decent in important games. Obviously, the last time these two played, Tatum put up 50 on them, so they weren't necessarily good in that game, and a Celtics win. But I do have faith that the Nets defense is going to step up. And they have pretty good individual defenders. Obviously, Durant's a good defender. They have Bruce Brown, who's have been a pretty good player for them. And then Nick Claxton is a pretty good defender as well. So they do have some bodies they can throw at Tatum. So since I'm taking the Nets here, I'm just going to take them to win straight up. Since I'm getting the best odds on FanDuel, I'm just going to lock that in on FanDuel. Nets to win the series. I do think that it's probably going to go 7 games, so I wouldn't really touch any of the series spread. I don't think it's worth the juice minus 192 getting the Nets. And the Celtics, I don't think they're going to win in 6 if they do win. I do think it's going to be a 7-game series, but boy, this is going to be a good series. Kyrie Irving returning to the Celtics in a series that actually matters, unlike last year where the Nets were just significantly better. I'm excited for it. So if you're tailing this bet, if you think the Nets are also going to win, I would love to hear it. You can hit me up at my Twitter handle below. I would also appreciate if you could like the video, comment, and provide your feedback that way as well. And then if you could click that plus button and subscribe to the IGM YouTube channel. You got a ton of NBA playoff coverage coming for you, ton of MLB stuff. So definitely subscribe. Make sure to check out the channel moving forward. But as far as this video goes, that is all I got for you. So thanks for watching and have a good one.